Next, we will have the presentation of the proposed budget for fiscal year 2016-2017. Sally?
This is when I get excited. Look forward to this all year long.
And you do a good job.
Oh, thank you very much. I don't know, you better wait till I'm done. Let's see how it goes, right? And I have Karen assisting in more ways than one with this budget, but tonight she's going to be doing the technical assistance with the program. And we do have a PowerPoint put together. There are a lot of numbers, and I'm going to talk about a lot of those numbers. I'm going to try not to bore everybody with too much detail, but I do think it's important, and I would like to share with you a few things about the budget. So the budget before you tonight for 2016-17 is $71.1 million. And that is about 5% less than the budget we're currently operating under. And the budget that we're currently operating under is almost $75 million. And so there's been some changes. A lot of those changes involve capital projects that span from one year to the other and that make year-to-year comparisons a little bit more difficult. We'll share with you that included in this budget are capital projects. You've just heard about our new water pipes and how we're working on those. You've heard the chief talk about fire equipment and fire trucks and all kinds of things. In this proposed budget, the general fund includes $3.6 million of capital funding, and the utilities funds altogether, all four, a little bit over $3 million. We'll tell you that in that general fund budget, there's $1.1 million of grant money that will fund just about a third of that capital budget for next year. And so we have been aggressive in going after grants, and public safety is one of our most aggressive departments in going after and being successful in getting grants. We continue to fund our local partnerships, and those are listed for you there. I will not go through the detail of all of those. It's Burke Development, Burke County Library, the 911 Center, Foothills Regional Airport, a total of $795,000 next year. I want to talk a little bit about the Burke County Narcotics Task Force. Both Valdez and Morganton have given their notice that next year will be our last year participating in that entity, in that structure. We have been longtime participants in that, and I want the community to understand that that is in no way a reflection that we will no longer fight narcotics and drug use in our community. We will just do it within a different structure. The drug business has changed, and a lot has changed about that. The Joint Task Force no longer serves the same purpose that it did when it was first created, and therefore we think it is time to give our notice and to move on. We'll also say to everyone, and I know this was in the newspaper, this does not in any way reflect that we will not cooperate with all law enforcement, with the Sheriff's Office and the other smaller law enforcement agencies in Burke County. We have a long history of cooperation, and that will not change because of this decision. Okay, I've been talking about this for 2 or 3 years now, and I still think it's true, and a lot has changed since I started talking about this. Have an opportunity to redevelop the Broughton campus and the adjoining state property. You've heard me talk a lot about this, 800 acres of property that are ripe for redevelopment, ripe for public-private partnerships to create some tax base and some opportunities in our community and our region of North Carolina that don't exist anywhere else. In March, the citizens of North Carolina approved the bond referendum, and included in that is $58 million to fund the construction of a western campus of the North Carolina School of Science and Math, which is a really awesome thing. That will be a high school similar to the one in Durham. That would be a residential high school that would be a catalyst on that property to lead to other development, support our communities in the surrounding area, and give an opportunity for that school to operate in Western North Carolina with a different curriculum than the one in Durham. Really cool thing. And I know we've had the opportunity, a lot of us, to hear Dr. Todd Roberts talk about that, the chancellor. They are excited. They are moving on. They are picking a spot in that 800 acres, and they plan to have that done by next June. And so then we can move on with redevelopment and know which part of that property they will locate on. still a great thing for our community and beyond. The general fund budget, which is what we all equate with government, non-utilities, right? So we're talking recreation, public safety, Main Street, community house, and then administrative functions, planning, zoning, development, design, engineering, those kinds of things. Next year's budget, $22.3 million, almost 22.4. A little bit about that, recommending that the current tax rate, 53 cents per $100, remains the same. No recommended tax rate increase. I think we're the only ones in the newspaper that didn't get our headline that said no tax rate increase of the governments who were not recommending an increase. Note to self over there. 1 cent equals approximately $157,000 for next year. That's down just slightly from this year. In the budget, total tax revenue, $8.2 million. That is 37% of the general fund revenues, by far the largest revenue in the general fund. We'll tell you that that is pretty flat. And I feel like I need to say that because this is the second year in a row that our ad valorem tax revenue has been flat. And while on its surface that's not concerning, for the long haul for me that is concerning, because that means that our industries, the big taxpayers, aren't reinvesting in new capital and equipment faster than their depreciation is happening. And we go through cycles like that. What concerns me is if that cycle gets extended and goes on for several more years, because then we obviously look at our services or a required tax rate increase. So feel the need to say that. We're good this year, but feel the need to say that. One new tax, and nobody likes a new tax. I don't like a new tax either, but the fact of the matter is that services cost money, and you have to raise the money to provide them. In 2014, we lost the privilege license tax, which generated about $215,000 to $230,000 a year. The General Assembly took that away. They have not replaced that with any other revenue, and we are still feeling the effects of that. So in our budget meetings this year and our committee meetings, we proposed to you a vehicle tax. That has been around for a long time. Lots of governments have used it for a while. The different thing about it now, the state gives you the permission to do it. They used to set that at a $5 maximum. They changed that last session and upped that to $30. You're allowed to charge up to $30 per personal tagged vehicle. Not dealer vehicles, not inventory vehicles, not commercial type vehicles. Personal tagged vehicles is what we're talking about. According to DMV, this will generate for us about $240,000. So that's proposed in this budget to replace the revenue that we lost from the privilege license taxes. That would come to everyone as a one-time bill when you get your tag renewal. And remember now, we get that and our tax bill all at the same time. Sales tax. Sales tax is the second largest revenue in the general fund budget, and next year we are budgeting about $3.7 million, and that is a really happy number. That represents about 10% growth. I will tell you that that includes, as you see there, almost $250,000. Remember last year's General Assembly and all the sales tax reform and all that really happened down there. Very controversial, taking money from one community and giving to another. It pitted cities against city. That's never a good plan. However, they did pass legislation, and in that we were a net gain. So we are expected to get about $248,000 more in sales tax revenue next year, simply from that change. So we have budgeted the total $3.7 million in next year's budget. Downtown tax rate, and that is for the municipal service district, recommended to remain at 14 cents per $100 value. 1 cent on that tax rate generates about $8,400. The total budget for the downtown taxes next year is a little over $116,000. That funds about 20% of the Main Street expenditures. We'll also tell you in that 14 cents has been that since a really long time.
21 years.
I don't remember what year, but
21 years.
21 years.
21 years.
I looked it up today.
There you go. So it has been 14 cents for 21 years. And would mention in the downtown plan, and we'll talk a little bit about this too, Brad's talking about asset planning and master planning, and that has been what we've been going through. You don't know where you're going unless you have a plan. And our master plan for downtown is over 15 years old. It's time to do a new one. You talked about this at your workshop back in March. The cost for that is $255,000, and that is a lot of money. We spent about that on the last one, but it has served us well. It has generated and helped us to generate about $40 million worth of private investment with what was named in that plan and with the projects that it has encouraged us to go after in this community. We'll tell you that we have received $96,000 from the state of North Carolina, and that was a direct benefit from the General Assembly. It was included in legislation, and 13 Main Street communities got that, and we were one of them. Solid waste, the garbage fee. No recommended increase, $10 per month, and that generates a little over $1.1 million a year and helps to pay for our sanitation services. Other state collected revenues, the big boys in the budget, utility franchise tax is about $1.9 million. That is collected by the state and then comes back to us. The beer and wine tax, just under $80,000, and the Powell bill funds, which help us with our road maintenance, $478,000, almost $479,000. That is down a little bit from this year. We are seeing some changes in the formulas at the state, and we are seeing that decrease. We'll tell you that the General Assembly has talked about doing away with those dollars. That would be devastating to us. Occupancy tax, something that years ago we didn't get, and we have been getting that for the last several years. We had a law change, and now Burke County, Morgan, and Valdez share in that funding. That is the heads in beds tax, and that is the tax generated by visitors and folks who come and stay in our community at our hotels. I would wager to say that Morganton is a large generator of heads in beds in Burke County, because we do a lot of activities, we support a lot of things that support that, and that's our festivals, promotions, sporting events, other opportunities, and investing in that is an investment in our community. Occupancy tax is up. We can see a direct benefit from all the activities that the Tourism Development Authority has been doing in conjunction with the municipalities and the county. We'll put the Red, White, and Bluegrass Festival up there because it seems to be something that everybody wants to talk about. That is a city event, unlike the historic Morganton Festival, which is an event put on by a 501c3 that the city is a big partner and supporter and funder in, but it is not truly a city event. It's not owned by the city. The Red, White, and Bluegrass Festival is. In 2017, this will be a 3-day event. There are $100,000 worth of expenditures included in this budget for that event. It will be a ticketed event those 3 days, July 1, 2, and 3, and $80,000 of revenues are budgeted for that. So that is basically a $20,000 contribution the city is planning to make toward that event. And every year that we have had that, you have budgeted revenues and expenditures in the years that we charged. In the earlier years we did not, and every year we have never budgeted for those to be equal. July 4th in 2017 is planned to be a family-free fun day. No charges for anything, and there will be fireworks and music and food and other activities, seed spitting, frog jumping, you know, all the usual kinds of stuff on the 4th of July. Capital, we talked about the $3.6 million. We talked about the capital in extensive detail in March at your workshop. Just some reminders of things included in there. There's the brick and mortar repair at Comma, sound improvements at Comma, and you see those amounts, $60,000 and $73,000. Public safety, fire truck to be financed by a borrowing, patrol cars to be financed by a borrowing. We'll tell you that there are $524,000 of grant funds included in their capital budget for equipment to help pay for those. See the cars? fire equipment and gear, and facilities improvements. In that 96, there's several things that make that up. Love the pictures. Nice to get to see everybody in action and the real stuff. Public Works, a new rear loader and a sweeper. Maintaining those streets and sanitation services require equipment, and looking at funding those with a financing. The Good Habit Rabbit replacement, and we still call the truck the Good Habit Rabbit. Had a call about that just this week to talk about that. We used to have a rabbit that went around and talked to the kids and everything about cleaning up, and it's just stuck with us. Mowing equipment, and then the street sweeper included in the Public Works. Another master plan opportunity, and I'm excited for the new recreation director that he gets to come at a time when we're getting ready to do a new master plan. Our recreation master plan is more than 15 years old. We are now ineligible to apply for state funding unless we update that, and that's a big deal. $70,000 included in the budget to pay for that. $49,000 included for the weight room upgrade at College Street, which is desperately needed. Fitness is becoming a big part of life, and folks want nice equipment in a pleasant place to work out. Park improvements in all of our parks, $80,000, and then the renovation of the Martin Luther King Jr. Park. Part of that, $150,000 from Kate B. Reynolds, $250,000 from the Rec Foundation. We'll say to you that we are currently relooking at this plan. We had a lot of community involvement to come to this plan with the Kate B. Reynolds process. But with the announcement that the schools are going to tear down the old Mountain View School and build a new school at that park, at that facility, at that area, we have opportunities perhaps to make some even better improvements with this park and to share with the schools to support their programming, and they in turn support everything that we've been investing in that area. We'll tell you that the staff, we are already meeting with the school board and with the school staff, and we are looking at ways that that can be even better for that part of our community. So we may be bringing back some changes to you for that. The skate park, and it's a shame that they left because I wanted applause and clapping. $180,000 for the skate park, $75,000 from the general fund, taxpayer supported, $90,000 from the Recreation Foundation, and then $15,000 in private donations, which we heard tonight the Optimist Club is going to do. So that's a really great thing. Also excited, our new recreation director will get the opportunity to work on this project because he comes to us with experience of having taken over a skate park and actually managed one and oversaw some improvements to one. And so I'm excited about that opportunity. Mowing equipment, petanque courts, looking to build 2 petanque courts, French bocce ball. Good description?
Yes, very good.
At the soccer complex, on the property at the soccer complex, and add yet another feature out there for folks to have another activity to do while they're out there. Fund balance in the general fund, $173,642. So even with the new revenue and with what we looked at, we still didn't balance the budget to zero. There are not enough revenues to support the expenditures requested. However, we do feel comfortable. The last couple years we have not used fund balance, even though we plan to, and we feel comfortable this will leave us well in excess of your 15% policy to keep 15% or greater of our general fund in fund balance. Water fund, almost $6 million. No recommended changes in rates. We are currently in the midst of a master plan that will look at the next 15 to 20 years in assets that we will need and required reinvestment in our infrastructure in that fund. In conjunction with that, we are working on a rate study, looking at what our rates will need to look like as we go forward and take on the infrastructure improvements that we need. Capital projects included in there, the $1.2 million Clearwell storage project being funded by a 0% interest loan. We'll tell you that our rates are still really low, and before we talk a little bit about the capital, for 5,000 gallons a month in Morganton, $14.40 for water. And that's pretty darn cheap. That is very cheap compared to our neighbors. So we provide it at a bargain basement price. So low that we don't qualify for some state help in some areas. Water tank maintenance continuing, $309,000, and line replacement, and working on those old lines, and just what Brad was talking about, $350,000. And you see some pictures of tanks there, and you saw the water lines earlier tonight that we are working to replace. We'll tell you that because we have been aggressive in that in the last couple of years, we have reduced our non-billed water, which is leakage in the system. And because we have changed out some meters, some old meters that were less efficient, and because we have done the water line replacement, we have reduced our non-billed water by 13%. And that's pretty good. Customers growing usage about 1% annually. We're at 48% of our capacity. That's 8.7 million gallons per day. And we're real proud of that 13% figure here. Electric. That's the big daddy in the budget. $33.6 million. So for next year, we think we're going to spend $33.6 million to keep the lights on. The power agency is passing on to us a wholesale rate decrease of 0.4%. That will be effective to us July 1. We are recommending for the second year in a row that you pass on to our customers a 1.6% rate decrease. That would become effective August 1st of 2016. It's not a large one, but yet it is something. The typical residents would see about $2.40, I wish 240, $2.40 a month. Commercial and industrial customers, it would range between $21 and $400 a month. Also recommending that we put away rate stabilization next year of $350 for future rate increases to help, lower the effects of some of those. We'll tell you we plan to do that this year, but we're projecting that we only are going to set aside about $75,000. It's been a very unusual weather and every other kind of year this past year. Capital projects, 2 new trucks. Takes trucks and equipment to have those fellows out there working in all that weather and taking care and keeping those lights on. Looking at financing both of those trucks. They're just over $350,000 for the 2. And also continuing our pole inspections and replacements and continuing upgrading our old substations that serve our large customers. Next year will be Viscotech and EJ Victor. Did I get that right? Wastewater, $5.3 million. Same as water. No change in rates. Working on that master plan and that rate study. Plant operating at 45% of capacity, 4.7 million gallons a day. And here too, with the manhole rehabilitation and the line rehabilitation program, have reduced our non-billed treated waste by 12%. Working still on the project that ultimately will convert our pure oxygen facility to a traditional treatment facility. We're in the design part of that project now, $621,000 that you have already awarded a contract for. You'll see $250,000 to sewer line rehab and manhole rehab to continue taking care of our older system, and some Bethel Basin rehab, about $200,000 next year. Compass, and we're going to call that Compass because that is even more important and not the cable fund, which is difficult for us old timers to do. $4.5 million. Looks about the same as this year, but it is very different than the current budget. Recall, since January, we've been working with a consultant. We've been looking at that business plan and our business model. No secrets. We are learning and having confirmed that video service, TV, and people watching TV and paying for cable is a declining business. At the same time that business is declining, the internet business and speed is growing. Our consultant feels like we have a viable business. He has given us a plan for the next 18 months that we continue to work and tweak to restructure this business, and we are in the middle of that. As that video service is declining, the cost to provide TV programming is still huge, $1.9 million in next year to pay for TV programming. August 1st, 2016, you will see some increases. Folks will see that in some equipment costs per month. They range between $2 and $7 depending on the type of equipment you have. HBO will go from $15.95 to $17.95. And in January, basic cable service will increase from $70.95 to $75.63 per month. Internet. This is where big changes are happening. Our current customers that have our lowest speed, which is 10 megabits per second, will remain grandfathered at that speed. However, that speed will go away. We will no longer sell that to anyone. Beginning in August, they will pay $2 per month, the customers that remain on that, for their modem rental fee. That is industry standard. The current customers that get 20 and 30 megabits per second speeds, that service, those customers will get upgraded to 50, which will really increase their speed, and that cost will be $49.95 per month. That is also, per our consultant, consistent with industry standards. The $10 bundling discount will remain in place for 16-17 for customers that take multiple products. That will reduce down in 17-18 to $5, and by 18-19 it will go away. Capital is limited, as recommended by our consultant, and most of it is associated with upgrades to troubleshooting and fiber activation, as you see there, and expansion of fiber for phone and internet customers. Cemetery Trust Fund, standard year there, business as usual, selling lots and niches in the columbarium. $11,750 is the budget for next year for that. IGS, our intergovernmental service folks that serve us that we could not live without, and that includes our IT, our warehouse, and our garage. Total budget $2,057,000. It's pretty close to the budget for this year. IRMS, and as we call them, that's IT, $975,000. Support contracts, hardware and software, almost $300,000 of that. Next year's big project, document imaging, so that we can better store and retrieve all of the records that we keep. The warehouse, $352,000, pretty average. Most of that is purchases of inventory, equipment services, $730,000. Fuel purchases make up $475,000 of that. And for the first time in several years, we're doing some capital improvements at the city garage, $48,000 worth, a new air compressor and a brake lathe. So people, 1% cost of living adjustment July the 9th. That would go to all city employees, all full-time city employees. That is $112,190 is what that would cost for next year. A 1.5% merit increase in March, and that would go to employees who, after our performance appraisal process, receive merit pay. That's $56,000 for next year. You have allowed us to include $40,000 for a pay and classification study. Just saw where the county is proposing to raise their pay classes up. It has been a while for them. We have not done one of those since 2004. It has been quite some time, and we need to take a look at that in order to remain competitive, to attract the best, the brightest, and to keep people providing the services our community deserves. We have gone from being self-insured to fully insured. We've recognized about $700,000 in savings for that move, and the taxpayers no longer have the risk of paying our insurance claims. So, $71 million. No services decreased or eliminated. Master plans going on in general government services and utility services. Business plans being evaluated in utility services. No ad valorem tax increase. However, ask you to consider the $20 motor vehicle tax. Traditional utility rates are either remaining the same or decreasing. You have a variety of changes to the internet fees, as we have talked about, and some changes in the television portion of the Compass business. So, this budget continues what we do. It allows us to continue providing the services that our community is accustomed to. It allows us to continue to reinvest in our community, to support activities, to support the look of our community, to support what we do that creates a sense of place that makes people want to be here, whether they want to live here, move here, work here, or visit here. And all of those folks are important to making the whole thing work. Very proud to be a part of the team. I said in my budget summary, and I won't go through, I used The Blind Side this year. I like to do a movie every year, and I used Michael Oher's words when he wrote about the charge of the Light Brigade and talked about courage and honor, and courage being something that you can even do stupidly and that sometimes is just happenstance. And I not that I think it's stupid in the least, but I think our day-to-day activities are routine for us, and it's something that we take pride in, but we do it because it's the right thing to do. I think when we do, as he said, mix that with the honor, which is where you do stuff you might not comfortable with, or things that really mean something. And I think those are all the extra things. Those are the things that make this place special. And I get to do that with a group of people who care, and I thank you. And I thank Karen for all of her help, because I couldn't do it without you. And I thank all of you for your hours and your pouring over this, because $71 million is a lot of money and it's a lot of responsibility. But I think it's responsible. I thank all the department heads for their hard work and the employees for what they do every day.
Sally, thanks. Karen, would you like to add anything as finance director? Okay. That's good.
She says I talk too long.
No, you don't.
Just as always, thank you. I work for the best city manager in the world, and I am so grateful for the support that I receive and Sally receives from the mayor and the city council. So thank you.
Thanks, Karen.
Thank you, Karen, for your hard work.
I'd like a motion to call for a public hearing on the proposed budget on Monday, June 20th, 2016 at 6 p.m. Do I have a motion?
So moved.
Do I have a second?
Second.
Any discussion? All in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Motion passes unanimously.